Okay, this is the second video that I'm making to go over Romeo and Juliet's prologue for the first act. I'm going to be talking about the structure of the prologue. It's a Shakespearean sonnet, and I'm going to explain to you what that means. We're going to kind of look at the structure, and I'm going to show you what iambic pentameter means, which sounds scary, but it's not too bad. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen with you now. We're going to go over some keywords that will be helpful to know as we're going over the poem and the play. So give it a second to load. Okay. The first keyword I'm going to talk about is prose. Prose is just ordinary speaking language. Novels are written in prose. Short stories are written in I'm speaking in prose right now. Prose just means it's regular speaking language. It's not poetry, and it's not like song lyrics or anything. Poetry, on the other hand, is metrical writing. It's writing that meets some sort of a pattern. That can be a rhythmic pattern. That can be a rhyming pattern. It can be both. It can be one or the other. It just means that it meets a pattern of some sort. A sonnet is it's a poem that meets a specific rhyme, meter, and number of lines. And there are different types of sonnets. We're only looking at Shakespearean or Elizabethan sonnets made famous by Shakespeare, but there are others. Petrarch wrote Petrarchan sonnets. In fact, one of our characters will reference Petrarch in the play. Spenserian, Miltonic. They're mostly named after the writers that made those types of sonnets famous. And in this case, we're going to be looking at the Shakespearean ones, obviously. A stanza is a division within a poem consisting of a series of lines arranged together, usually in a recurring pattern of rhyme or meter. I like to compare a stanza to like a poetic paragraph. You see where they kind of break apart. Usually there's a little bit of space between them, not always, but sometimes. Rhyme scheme is, I think, the easier part of rhyme and meter to understand. It's just basically identifying where the rhyming words are in the poem. And then poetic meter shows you where certain syllables are emphasized, and there's a pattern to it. That's where you get the word, I used the word iambic earlier, because these sonnets, Shakespearean sonnets, are written in iambic pentameter. I'm going to explain to you what that means. It has to do with its meter. But rhyme scheme first. This one, like I said, is a little bit easier to understand. First, we're going to divide out our sonnets, or sorry, not our sonnets. We're going to divide out our stanzas. There are 4 of them in Shakespearean sonnets. The first 3 are the same in their pattern. The 4th one is slightly different. So we're just going to start taking you through each line. The last word in the first line is dignity. All right, we are going to assign that line the letter A, because that's how we show we use the alphabet. All right. A, dignity. We're going to look for the next word that rhymes with dignity, or we don't have to look for it. We can go to the next line and just point out to ourselves, well, seen, the word seen does not rhyme with dignity. So we can go ahead and assign that the letter B. It gets the next letter in the alphabet. Mutiny, however, rhymes with dignity. And so we're going to go back to the letter A on that line. Dignity, mutiny. Unclean rhymes with seen. So that line also gets a B. You can see how that pattern starts to emerge. Like I said, the first 3 stanzas have the same pattern. And it's not A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. The word foes, which is the next line, doesn't rhyme with any of the previous ones. So we go on to the next letter in the alphabet, C. Life does not rhyme with foes or anything else we've said so far. So the letter D. Overthrows does rhyme with foes, as you might have predicted. C. Strife and life rhyme, so that gets the letter D. The word love does not rhyme with anything we've seen before, so it gets the letter E. Rage, we haven't seen that rhyme before, so we're going to give that the letter F. Remove is a partial rhyme for love, and so we count it as a rhyme. We're going to go ahead and put the E there. I know that the vowel sound isn't exactly the same, but the consonant sound is the same, and so we're going to give it to Shakespeare on this one. So E, F, E, stage rhymes with rage, so that gets the next F. And then attend and mend rhyme with each other, so G, G. And that's how you do rhyme scheme on a poem. These can be fun to do. Like we would do, if we were in the classroom, we'd do a lot of exercises where we would take poems and identify the rhyme scheme. And structurally, I think this is a little easier for some people who struggle with like English as this sort of artistic, vague, figurative type subject area. This is really methodical and structured. So I think usually kids that struggle with English in general tend to kind of like the methodical part of this. Lots of people who are like big Shakespeare buffs, if you ask them, like, they should be able to rattle off to you what the rhyme scheme is of a Shakespearean sonnet. They should be able to just go A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. Like, we know it. Okay, so now we're going to look at meter, poetic meter. This is the trickier one. This one is tougher to explain and understand. So syllable patterns, they have different names, and especially when you're talking about poetry. There's iambic, you have iambs, you have spondaic, you have trochaic. We're not going to look at spondies or trochees or anything like that. We are just looking at iambs because that's what Shakespeare mainly used, okay? What that is it consists of 2 syllables, and the syllable stresses have to go in a certain order. Unstressed, stressed. That's it. That's an iambic foot, all right? So let's apply that to the first line. Let's take ourselves through the first line and apply where those stress points are. So the unstressed syllables we mark with that little U. We just put that above the word or the syllable that it applies to. The hash mark is the stressed syllable. So we're going to show you what that looks like here. So unstressed, 2, house, holds, both, like, in, dig, ni, t. All right, and a few things that you need to note are that you can break up words. In fact, you have to break up words because many words consist of multiple syllables. So households is broken up into 2, and they'll actually be broken into different feet, which I'll explain here in a second. Dignity is broken up into like 3 syllables. So, I mean, you'll see how they divide out. Once you've put the stress pieces together, you've identified the syllables and what their stresses or unstresses are. You can go ahead and put parentheses around each foot. And just like it says up there, the iambic foot is unstressed, stressed. You'll put parentheses around each set of syllables that matches that, and then we'll count them. So 2 house, that matches that pattern. Holds both. Alike, in dig, nitty, okay? So now you know where the feet are, and then you would count the feet. So let's count how many feet. Each set of parentheses is 1 foot. It's 2 syllables within that foot, but it's 1 foot are those 2 syllables. So let's go 1, under 2 house, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here is where we learn why we call it iambic pentameter, okay? So the iamb references the syllable pattern, the stress pattern. The pentameter part, penta, is Greek for 5. So that tells us there are 5 feet, five poetic meters of iambs here. So that is how the poetic meter works. And if you're really ambitious and you're really into this stuff, you could take the entire poem and see how that works, because all of these lines are written in that pattern, which is pretty astounding whenever you think about it, that Shakespeare was able to repeat that pattern and make the content and the information he was giving you meaningful. He wrote a lot of sonnets, like 154 sonnets. You can buy, they're usually bound together. Hang on, I'm going to stop sharing my screen very quickly. Give me just a second. Okay, so his book of sonnets are really easy to find, but it's really cool if you think about it. All of these poems that he wrote, and it fits that exact pattern that I just went through. Not only that, but he was so talented and so good at this that not only does he use them in his plays, but he'll put them into the dialogue. One of my favorite parts about sonnets and Romeo and Juliet is that the first time Romeo and Juliet meet in the second act, their dialogue in their first meeting scene forms a perfect sonnet, which is so cool, I think. And when we get to that point, I will definitely be pointing that out to you. But that kind of gives you a basic idea of what a Shakespearean sonnet is, why it's significant for Romeo and Juliet, and kind of just gets you an understanding of the rhyme and meter. If you have any questions, email me, Miss Pride, Miss Knowlton, Miss Hudson, and we'll figure out what you have any questions about.